Hi everyone and welcome. In today's video I'm gonna be talking about how to deal with Lars and more specifically about his transitions into silent entry. So I'm just gonna jump straight into it and show you how to do this in practice mode. This is gonna be extensive and I'm gonna try to go as in depth as possible. I might miss a thing or two, but I'm just gonna show you first that we're gonna pick Jin as my character, and then we pick Lars. Let's pick this as an infinite stage.
Get ready for the next battle.
So Lars has several moves that he can transition to on block or hit to go into silent entry from. So the first one I'm gonna show then is gonna be forward 1-2 into forward. This stance is called silent entry, and from that stance he has 6 different options: 1, 2, 3, 4, 1+2, and 3+4. And he can do it from forward 1-2 and then hold forward, forward 2-1 and then hold forward, while standing 2, then hold forward, back 3 and then hold forward. I think those are the 4 regular ones, and as we can see, these 4 different strings and moves: forward 1-2 forward, it says -5 on block, forward 2-1 forward, -5 on block, while standing 2 forward, -5 on block, back 3 forward, -5 on block. So this makes it that it used to be fairly simple to lab versus him what you needed to do when he did stance transition into silent entry on block, because he was actually -5, and the fastest attack he has from silent entry is silent entry 1, which is a 12 frame mid. And I'm going to go back to this. So those are 4 moves that are all -5, and they are way easier to deal with. But the problem is that in this game, he got a new down forward 2, and as you can see, when it transitions to silent entry, which it does automatically, you need to hold back in order to not transition when you want to do down forward 2, is that he's -3. And those 2 frames, they make a big difference. So the first thing I'm going to show you is that you need to record, because we're going to start with the hardest move, and the move that they currently are using the most online is the down forward 2. We're also going to eventually go through dynamic entry 3, which you can see goes into silent entry automatically, but here he's +5. So instead of being -5 or -3, he's actually +5. So this move is way harder. More or less that it becomes that you just need to block and guess. Is it gonna go for a mid or is it gonna go for low? But more about that later. The first thing we're gonna do is that we're gonna focus on the down forward 2. So, as I said, down forward 2 into block, you see that it's punishable. It's -11. And down forward 2 is -3 if he goes into silent entry. And like I said before, silent entry 1 is his fastest attack, which is 12 frames. So we can easily check this, that I'm going to record down forward 2 into silent entry 1. And then I'm going to do, what should I do? What's a 15 frame move here? I'm going to do can, down 3+4. So I'm going to block it and then try to do can. And as you can see, we both hit each other at the same time. So the frame data according to the game is correct. He's -3, he does a 12 frame move, it hits on the 15th frame. I do a 15 frame attack, we trade. Okay, that's good. So then you might think, yeah, but if he does that, I should just probably just jab him out of it. Right? The problem is that the next move I'm gonna show you is silent entry 2. That's silent entry 2. And this move evades jabs depending on each character's hitbox of the jabs. Currently, 19 out of 35 characters can actually check this with their jabs. And there's 16, so I don't know them by heart. I remember a couple of days ago I checked it up on stream. But almost, is it about 45%? 45% of the characters, their jabs will get avoided if it goes for the silent entry 2 here. So here we see I press 1 jab, I press 2 jab. And due to me, if I press 1, 2 or 2, 1, the first jab gets evaded, the second jab takes too long to come out, and therefore he gets a counter hit. So he hits you before the second jab has a time to connect. So I'm showing this with Jin, but I'm also gonna show how it works, for example, with a character like Lars. I'm gonna be going back and forth between Jin and Law and some other characters to show why it's so hard to deal with Lars and his stance transitions. So now, Lars' jab is low enough to interrupt this 2. Even his 2 jab. So both his 1 jab and 2 jab have low enough hitbox to interrupt Lars from doing down forward 2 into silent entry 2. I'm gonna go back to Jin now.
Get ready for the next battle.
So Jin struggles then because he can't check with jab. And like I said, he has 6 different options. Silent entry 1, I'm gonna put it back to guard. Silent entry 1, silent entry 2, which is the low. Silent entry 3, which is a 14 frame mid launcher. It's important to know that if you block this, he's actually minus 14. But the block stun is rather short, so it's kind of hard to be doing optimal punishment on it. Then he has a power crush, which is silent entry 4. This kick. And then he has his tornado move, 1+2. And his jumping move. This is important to know, that he has a jumping move as well. Because you might think, yeah, but what happens if I just do a down jab? Then even though he's -3, he jumps over your jab here. So if I'm correct, I believe that this 3+4 from silent entry actually is considered airborne on frame 7. Which is it that he was -3, you try to do a 10 frame down jab, it hits on 7th frame, quote unquote, but he's already airborne, so that's why he's crushing it. So the fastest attack he has is silent entry 1. The 12 frame attack. It's -3. This means that you need to find an option that's 14 frames or faster and can beat all of his options. But I told you that he has silent entry 4, the power crush. Right? So here, we're going to interrupt it with a down forward 1. And as you can see, you still have time to block. And if you have time to block, you have time to react and then duck here. So if this is silent entry 1 after down forward 2, this is silent entry 2, and this is the jumping attack to avoid the dick and the down jab, pardon me. So silent entry 1, 12 frames fast. Silent entry 2, believe 17 frame fast. Low, high crushes or high evades, depending on the hitbox of your jab, you might be able to do jab interruption. Then you have the silent entry 3+4, which has jumping status on frame 7, which prevents you from doing a down jab. And now you have the power crush, silent entry 4. So we can just see, thus can Jin interrupt all of these options with his down forward 1. This is according to frame data. He tries to do a 12 frame attack when he's -3. Oh, that was misinput. So yeah, Jin's down forward 1 works there. And now we're gonna try the silent entry 2, the low. It works. And here's the 3+4, the jumping. Then you get a float combo afterwards. Oh. And then, if you have time after your attack gets power crushed, your down forward 1, do you still have time to duck? So this attack is one of the attacks that ruins it for a big portion of the characters, or some of the characters. Kind of like how the silent entry 2 ruined it so you couldn't do jabs. So for example, if we go back, Jin can't check with his 1 jab or his 2 jab, which forces him that he needs to check with a faster mid. Most characters always gonna have time to duck after, if they would connect 1-2 after the down forward 2 on block. This is important. So this, and why this is so complicated, is because what we're currently checking is only from one specific situation where you need to practice your options after down forward 2. We're going to record on the 5th one, we're going to record down forward 2 into block, just holding back. And now I'm going to show you how it is if you have a character with really good jabs when it comes to low hurt box or hitbox, and good recovery on their down forward 1. And I consider Law to be the prime, like the best example that I can come up with at the moment.
Get ready for the next
So Law, he doesn't really need to bother that much about down forward 2. Because his 1-2 interrupts. It can't get low evaded. Or high crushed, I mean. See? Interrupts the jumping. Here comes the power crush. Still has time to duck. And also, here's the option that very few Lars are actually using. Down forward 2 into just trying to guard. And if you guys are wondering, why you're not using 1-1-2 instead? I'm gonna show you. So we're gonna go back to this high the power crush. Oh, try to press 1. I don't have time to duck here. So the recovery after 1-1 here is too bad in order for me to success. I'm gonna eat this power crush here. Silent entry 4 if I try to duck here. But you recover fast enough to duck if you do a 1-2. So this means that if you're Law versus Lars and he does down forward 2, you can, and I'm gonna show you now the exception afterwards, but you can just press 1-2 against all options except 1. And now, here comes the problem. I said that Lars' hitbox on his jabs are low enough to stop Lars from doing Silent Entry 2. But what happens if Lars does down forward 2 and then delays the Silent Entry 2? Suddenly he evades it. The risk of doing this for Lars is that he's gonna be more vulnerable to slower attacks. But so this is something that the Lars players, some of them hopefully knows about, that if they're facing a character that can jab interrupt their transition and don't need to worry about that they need to do a mid, that they can still punish you, because if you always check with a mid and Lars does down forward 2 into block, he doesn't get punished for it, right? So this is why I started out with the down forward 2. So before Tekken 8, he didn't have this down forward 2, and his stance transitions on block into Silent Entry were all -5. He also didn't have this version of Dynamic Entry 3 that he has. So he didn't have a Dynamic Entry 3, which is +5 on block into Silent Entry, and all his transitions were -5. So it was way easier to go into practice mode, lab your options, and know what to do. So people used to call it more that the transitions were fake. The problem is now that he has down forward 2, that is -3 instead of -5, and that changes a lot of stuff. One of the issues is that what happens if you play a character that, for example, I'm going to show with Paul here. Paul has a 14 frame down forward 1, and his down forward 1 is -2 on block. So it's slower. It seems to be a bit different. You can't just follow needlessly the frame data on hit or block either, but it can tell you something, that this is down forward 1, it's -2. Down forward 1 in itself it's slower because it's 14 frames. So then we go back and we try. Because it's 14 frames, he's -3, it's a 12 frame attack coming out now with Silent Entry 1, we know I'm gonna beat him. Right? And then we know the Silent Entry 2, also gonna get beaten, because it's 14 frames. And then we have the jumping attack with Silent Entry 3+4. And I float him. Probably do. And here comes the power crush. Now I'm gonna do down forward 1. And you see, I get punished for it. This is due to the fact that his recovery of down forward 1 doesn't allow him to block this follow-up. The Silent Entry 4 here. But I can show you a neat little trick. Is that with Paul specifically, he can do down forward 1 into back sway by holding back. And this won't make it so that the Silent Entry 4 power crush will whiff. You still get hit. But what you can do is that you go into back sway, and then from back sway you immediately press down forward. So you go to this new stance called deep dive. And then you cancel the deep dive by holding down back. And now suddenly Paul can actually check with a down forward 1. Oi. Oi. What? There we go. And there we have it when he does nothing. And here we have the delayed silent entry 2, which he will. So, pulse down forward 1 on its own doesn't recover quick enough in order to duck the power crush. But he can circumvent that by doing down forward 1 into backsway, cancel the backsway immediately into deep dive, and then you can just hold down back to cancel the deep dive and be in full crush and punish it with a while standing 2. But certain characters, for example like Lydia,
Get ready for the next battle.
Here's Lydia, and her down forward 1, you can see it's -5 on block. And this will automatically affect how to deal with the power crush. So this means that she can't check with her down forward 1 there. So let's see, is her jab her hitbox low enough? It looks like it. So with Lydia, for example, she can't mid-check there. She needs to do 1-2. And now let's see. And does she recover quick enough from the 1-2 so she can duck afterwards? Yes. So this is why you need to go to the lab with your specific character and lab these options. And this is going to be a fairly long video. And this is only about Lars down forward 2. We haven't gone through the options that are -5 instead of -3. We haven't gone through the dynamic entry 3, which is +5. And when he's +5, the fastest mid is 12 frames. Yeah, you know the deal. The only thing you're going to have, you have 7 frames. The only thing that you can do there is going to be a power crush. But we're going to go into that later. So, then what happens if you have a character where your jab hitboxes are too low and you don't actually have a mid to check them with either? I'm gonna see, does this apply to Raven? I don't remember by heart now. Raven's 1 jab doesn't hit, Raven's 2 jab doesn't hit. So Raven can't check with jabs. And now we're gonna see Raven's down forward 1 is -2 and 14 frames. And he can't duck this one. So then what happens is that Raven doesn't actually have a solution to down forward 2 on block. It makes it so that Raven actually needs to make an educated guess. Should he do a fast mid that interrupts all the options, but it's gonna lose to the power crush? Or is he gonna try to do 1-2 and lose to the low? Because if he does 1-2, for example, he's gonna lose to silent entry 2. And Lars gets a combo. So should he just do a 1? Oh, wait. What's happening here? Okay. This is some Raven interaction I had no idea about, but this seems weird. Poor Raven. I don't know what's happening with this jab there. But, so from the looks of it, it seems like Raven is going to be a character that has a hard time dealing with down forward 2 on block into stance transitions from Lars. And this is one of the things that makes it really infuriating and complicated, is that you're blocking a 14 frame mid. And not only did they do a 14 frame mid, this mid is very, very good on counter hit. because it knocks down with a guaranteed ground hit. And he can even do this if he chooses to not go into silent entry stance by holding back. So the reward is fairly big for a 14 frame mid from Lars. So this is why you need to check with your specific character. The best thing that you would like to have is that you have a jab that is low enough and a down forward one that can interrupt as well. Because Lars can actually do 1-2, and the only option he will lose to is gonna be the delayed silent entry 2, as I showed. Alright. Now we're gonna take... let's stay with Raven. Alright. And now, instead of doing from down forward 2, we're gonna start recording, and I show you the difference between when he's -5 instead of -3. So from down back 2, I'm gonna record down back 2 into silent entry 1. And here we do to the silent entry 2 after down back 2. Is the 3+4. Oh. Here's the 4. Oh, oops. Here's the... No, we don't need to have this one, but here we can record on this one. We record the delayed silent entry 2. So here we can see if this interaction helps Raven, that due to Lars being 2 frames slower, being -5 instead of -3, will this make it so that Raven can actually just down forward 1 check all options here? He's -5, tries to do a 12 frame attack that hits on the 17th frame. Here's a 17th frame, so we see... Listen to this? Yeah. Here we can see that we trade. So the frame that is correct. I'm inputting forward 3 with Raven, a mid-homing move. And here's the low attack. Here's the jumping attack. And now we're gonna see, will we have time suddenly to duck the power crush here? Doesn't look like it. So here we can see that Raven still has the same issue. So I'm gonna go to Paul.
Get ready for the next battle.
And let's see if I can just duck after trying to stop him with a down forward 1. So these 2 frames, that this transition is -5 on block instead of -3, like he is from down forward 2, makes it so that he can actually start ducking now. So this that I'm gonna show you now is gonna be a solution that works for a lot of options here. So Paul has what we consider to be a generic down forward 2. 15 frames, safe, only launchers, only launching standing opponents. So because he's -5 and is doing a 12 frame move, I have 16 frames to interrupt, and we're gonna trade on 17 frames. Right? So we trade here. That means that from these transitions, you have more frames to interrupt. So instead of being forced to check with a down forward 1, because you traded from down forward 2 with silent entry 1 on 15 frames, it makes it so that you can start checking with a down forward 2 instead. And now the moment of truth. Does my down forward 2 recover quick enough so I can duck afterwards? And no, you don't. So before this, the silent entry 4 used to be a launcher, but they sped up the animation in this game. So this option select punish that you try to do is gone now. So you're gonna be forced to check with down forward 1 with Lars. I mean with Paul versus Lars. Important to know. You can also be that the risk reward that you chose to have is that you're gonna press down forward 2 on all the options. Right? And then the only option you're gonna lose to is gonna be if he does the power crush. He hasn't done the power crush yet. There we go. So, but this is from the options that are -5 on block. So remember that, down forward 2. So you need to start paying attention to, is he using the down forward 2 or is he using the other moves or strings that he transitions into silent entry? So it was forward 1 2 into forward, forward 2 1, forward 2 1 into forward, down back 2 into forward, while standing 2 into forward, and back 3 into forward. So back 3 is a 17 frame long distance punisher for Lars. You input back 3 4. So we're gonna record on this one. We're gonna record back 3 4. And on this one, we're gonna record back 3 into forward. Okay? And more specifically, we're gonna record back 3 into silent entry 3 plus 4. So here's a little trick. So this is a bit of a side note. So back 3 into silent entry is -5. It's meant to be a punisher, and you actually have an option select punish as soon as you block a back 3. And now we need to record back 3 on its own. And as you can see, back 3 on its own is actually -12. So here's if you don't want to deal with the situation, the reward is going to be lower, but so you have down jab option select here. So now I showed you how to lab versus down forward 2, how to lab versus the options that are -5 instead of -3, which is forward 1 2 into silent entry, forward 2 1 into silent entry, down back 2 into silent entry, while standing 2 into silent entry, and back 3 into silent entry. So you have one specific move only, that's -3, down forward 2. Then you have 5 different other moves or strings that he can transition into silent entry. And then you have the last move, which is dynamic entry 3, which makes it way harder for you to deal with. So we're gonna do that. And I'm not saying this, this is just to illustrate how hard it actually is in the heat of the moment to pay attention. Oh, he cancels those 2 attacks to go into silent entry. I must be prepared to interrupt him. What are my options? And you need to know that you're gonna have different options on the moves that are -5 into silent entry compared to down forward 2 that is -3. And then more or less you're going to notice that you have very few options when it comes to dynamic entry 3 into silent
Get
entry.
ready for the next battle.
I'm picking Yun here for a specific reason. To show you how certain characters can deal with certain stuff better than others. So we're going to record here. I'm going to input now forward 3 into 3. Dynamic. That's how I go into dynamic entry 3. And as you can see, this attack is 22 frames fast. But the stance transition is like 15 frames if I remember correctly. So in actuality, the fastest way this attack can come out is gonna be around 37 frames. And that sounds like a long time, but he has faster options that he can come out with too. He can cancel the dynamic entry transition by inputting down back, or up, or down, right? So you can cancel the transition. So even though this is a fairly slow attack, we're going to go through the options. It's not that easy to just be like, just interrupt him before he does this, like certain people on Twitter try to recommend. It's not that easy. So now when we know that his fastest attack is silent entry 1 and he's +5, that means there's going to be a 7-frame window. Didn't input my button. So here. Now we're gonna see, if I press any button, I'm gonna lose. Oh, oops. I can't interrupt this. And now we're gonna try, I'm gonna do my power crush. But as you can see, Yun has one of the worst power crushes in the game. It's so slow. So Lars has time to recover to block it. If we take another power crush, let's take Leroy's for example.
Get ready for the next battle.
Leroy's power crush is 17 frames, forward 1+2. Then Lars doesn't recover in time in order to block it. So here, due to the fact that silent entry 1 is 12 frames fast, and silent entry 2, the low, is 17 frames. It's going to be really hard for you. So if I try to input the Sabaki here, I get a counter hit, right? Because he's +5, he does a 17 frame move. There's no Sabaki in this game. That's 11 frames. And mid. Like a power crush, not Sabaki. So because he's +5, the attack is 17 frames, it hits on the 12th frame. There's not a Sabaki, power crush in the world that's gonna save you. So then what happens is that, for example, with Yun, I can have more unconventional methods. I can try to do my punch Sabaki, because I'm suspecting he's gonna do the silent entry 1. And let's say I hit him with this and he tries to mix it up. So he goes for the low, right? And then he gets a counter hit. Then I'm thinking, well, I'm just gonna input can. So he goes back to do the fast mid, which is 12 frames, he's +5, it connects on the 7th frame. Look what happens now when I input can. He gets an airborne hit instead. So when it comes to dynamic entry 3 and the options that you have, is that he can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 plus 2, 3 plus 4. The issue is that before he used to be only plus 3 on block, but then he was automatically punishable by a rage charge. And Namco didn't want that, so they made it so instead of plus 3, he's gonna be plus 5. That makes it so that, because rage charge activates on frame 8, and his fastest attack is 12 frame, but he's plus 5, right? So it hits on the 7th frame. So he can beat you for inputting a rage charge. So they thought, problem solved, we fixed this. The issue is that now we have an issue where Lars is doing what I consider to be single player mode. He's inputting stuff that he's in total control over, and the only thing that you can do is actually just guess. You don't have that many options. It's going to be a mid or is it going to be a low? Before it became plus 5, there was actually certain options that you could sidestep after you blocked the dynamic entry 3 to the left, and some stuff catch you for going to the left, but those you could sidestep to the right. That is all removed now. So we're going to do dynamic entry 3 into 1 here. Dynamic entry 3 into 2. Dynamic entry 3 into 3. Or silent entry 3, that is. Into the power crush, the 4. Into the 1 plus 2. Silent entry 1 plus 2. And silent entry 3 plus 4. And now we just put this on, and I block the first dynamic entry 3, and then I try to sidestep. You barely see me move anything. So I can't move away from this option. We need either side. Then we see, can I move away from the low? That's 17 frames. See? Here I can actually sidestep it to the left. Get hit if I sidestep to the right. Get hit if I try to do a sidewalk to the right. So I can avoid this option after dynamic entry 3 by going to the left. I can avoid this option too, the launcher, silent entry 3. Oh, didn't get my sidestep to come out. Here I get clipped. Can I maybe do a sidestep into duck? Looks like it. Can I? And it's a homing attack, that power crush. So there's no need to test the other direction. And here, I have to go left. I have to sidewalk left. Go right. So before this became plus 5, you actually could sidestep more options, and certain options caught different sides. And that made this move more enjoyable to deal with, because you actually felt like you had options afterwards. So even though he was plus 5 and automatically transitioned into silent entry, it was somewhat of a fair guessing game, it felt like. But now the options is that some of the options you could sidestep to the left, as we saw, but you're going to get clipped by others immediately. And it might be, are you going to do a power crush? Are you going to do a sabaki? Are you going to go to sidestep left? Or are you just going to guess if you're going to block mid or low? And this is one of the things that there is no actual solution. My point was that I wanted to teach you how to deal with down forward 2 specifically. What you need to check for is that you're going to have to check if your jabs has low enough of a hitbox to interrupt him for going into silent entry 2. And if you're down forward 1, the mid check has fast enough recovery so you can check in with a fast mid and still being able to duck if he goes into the power crushed silent entry 4. As a bonus, I'm gonna show something else now. Hopefully this has been teaching you anything about how to deal with the character, but you need to go with each specific character that you play actually in order to lab what your options are gonna be. Then we have another issue with Lars, is that his 10 frame Punisher, 2-1, which is +8 on hit, and then he goes into his new stance, which is called limited entry, Len, and from that he has 2 options, Len 1, or limited entry 1, and limited entry 2. Both of those options are 16 frames. So here's the low, 16 frames, and here's the mid, the 2, 16 frames. And both of these are enhanced while he's in heat. If he connects this low while he's in heat, he goes into a hit throw, and the 2 becomes a launcher, automatically tornadoes. So his 10 frame punish has become way more scary in this game. Especially then when he's in heat, of course. But now, his 2-1 as we see, he's -6 here. And then, a few weeks into the game, the Lars players started realizing that I'm not forced to press either 1 or 2. They realized this automatically. You can just press while standing 4. So he's -6 while standing 4. You see? It's 11 frame, so you should trade with a 17 frame attack. Let's see if the frame data adds up. So now I'm gonna do this move, a 17 frame homing move. And as you can see, the frame data adds up. So he's -6. The while standing 4 comes out after 6 frames. Or 17 frames. So now, what they learned was that we've always been knowing that Lars is very evasive. And his orbital has low crushing frames from frame 9. But it also mysteriously, when you play during specific interactions, can avoid mids and highs here and there. So they noticed that if I input 2-1 on block, and I don't input up forward 4, but instead input up 4. Here's up 4. You see the distance that he moves forward is not that long compared to up forward 4. He jumps a bit further, or you see? This is up forward 4. And this is up 4. So they thought, what happens if I input 2-1? It got blocked, and then I just input up 4. So now we're gonna see the evasiveness of Lars after 2-1. As we can see here, after 2-1, he's fairly low to the ground, right? For a split second. This, together with the evasiveness of up 4, makes it so that a lot of mids that you want to check with after 2-1 is automatically gonna whiff. I tried to do a down forward 1 here. And I got whiff punished for it. Now I'm gonna try to do another quick mid. Back 4, a 13 frame knee. Here I try to interrupt him with a jab. 1-2. But the problem is, if I try to interrupt with jabs here, he has access to this limited entry 1. So that's not a good option. So I need to check with a mid here. And this is a form of knowledge check, is how much do you know of what mids you're supposed to check if Lars does 2-1 on block. So here I check with a 16 frame punishable mid, -12 on block. Here I check with a 17. Here I check with cans. But so Yun is very specific, and she's the character that I recently have been playing. But let's go with somebody vanilla like Jin, and then we go and check with
Get ready
Law.
for the next battle.
So Jin can't check with a down forward 1 here. What's that due to range issue or delay? Let's see, down forward 2. Down forward 2 seems to be working. So you need to be prepared to know which options you have that beats him after 2-1 on block into up for orbital. And also, you want your options to be 16 frames or faster, hopefully. And eventually, the Lars player might do this. I'll try to record on block. Boom. So now we can see. So this option still hits if you try to sidestep. But yeah, so I wanted to go through your options that you had versus his stance transitions into silent entry. The importance of the different that down forward 2 into silent entry is -3, while the other options are -5. How you lab the options that you have versus these transitions, and why it's so hard to deal with dynamic entry 3 on block, and that's because of being, instead of being -3 or -5, it's actually +5. And then I wanted to end the video by showing you guys that you need to know what options to do in order to deal with. And what I can show you is that after you block 2-1 here, a lot of players do this. They sidestep right. As you can see, if you just sidestep left, you get clipped. You need to continuously sidewalk left, so that's why they do a sidestep right. But then, let's just check 2-1 into silent entry 1. It hits you. But not if you do a good sidewalk left. Right, I mean. Good sidewalk right. Right. And let's see what happens with the 2. Oh, what? Well, this is interesting. So if you sidewalk here, because you want to avoid the 1, you get hit by the 2. Okay, nice. But, let's see. You have so many options to interrupt him. Yeah. But yeah, so if you're having issues with 2, 1 into block. Remember that the orbital doesn't hit you if you just do a small sidestep to the right. But you should try to do options that will interrupt it. But you need to lab which option you have that interrupts it. So yeah, I hope you found this video educational. If I missed something, you can always add it in the comments. Important to think about is that you want to know how good of a hitbox your jabs have, and you need to check if the recovery of your down forward 1 for the most part, your quick mid, is gonna be fast enough. So even if they do the power crush of Silent Entry 4, you still have time to duck it. And that the frames of down forward 2 into Silent Entry is -3. The other options are -5. If you're annoyed about them approaching you with back 3, you can always just do down jab as an option select punish. They can't do anything about it because the kick in itself is -12. He doesn't have the frame in order to low crush your down jab, and the high follow-up will still get beaten out by the down jab. Dynamic Entry 3, you saw that some of the options you can actually sidestep to the left, but you're gonna get clipped by a lot of others, and it's just a bad situation for you. I wish that they reverted it back to becoming -3 again, and making it so that after Dynamic Entry 3, he can choose to just hold back, and instead of being plus, he's something around -8. So he's not punishable again by rate charge for inputting a Dynamic Entry 3. So yeah, that was it for me. A rather long video. Hope you learned something. I'm out. Have a pleasant day. Bye bye.